For those of you thinking of attending the program on loan documentation and security issues, just a quick heads up on the sort of things that you might find very useful if you're in that market. So this is designed for professionals involved in any kind of lending, credit documentation. The point of departure, I think, to get across to participants is the credit markets are really fragmented in terms of the different segments they're in. When I started looking at this 20 years ago, life was pretty simple. Today, it makes a big difference on whether you bilateral, syndicated deals, club deals, or even private credit. So what I'm trying to do in this course is actually address, to some extent, how the documents will look in each of those key segments. And there are some obviously very big differences. Clubs, private credit, not too dissimilar. Syndicate loans, very, very different. In fact, many of those will bear very, very strong correlation to what you would expect to see in the high yield bond market for a whole bunch of different reasons. So the course really talks about the key issues that you need to focus on, the concept of the group, and particularly the restricted group and all the relevant parties that are in that. And then moves on to the voting, which is obviously pretty critical in dealing with syndicated deals or club deals. And I make some brief mention of private credit as well. That's obviously pretty important. And then I move on to what I think is probably, speaking as a person who sits in debt advisory and has done for some time, what I think are the key issues, which are the permitted baskets. So permitted debt incurrence, permitted security, permitted M&A. These are really where one negotiates very heavily. And of course, anyone familiar with the LMA documentation will know that the LMA is blank on all of these kinds of issues. So I spent quite a lot of time looking at all those permitted baskets and how to think about them, what to expect, and how to maximize the flexibility available for borrowers. But I'm also approaching this whole program from the lender's perspective to make sure that they don't end up being tripped up. We then move on to the other aspects of it, which deals with the various cash sweeps. I don't spend a lot of time on those. There are one or two areas that are pretty important. And then we finally sort of move on to the various undertakings, financial covenants, the general undertakings. I spent some time looking at the guarantor coverage test. When we look at the financial covenants, we have a look at what are important, why they matter, which ones matter. And then, of course, the information covenants, which are important because without the information covenants, the financial maintenance covenants aren't terribly reliable. We finish off then looking at the events of default in terms of what those are and how to manage those. So the final section deals really with how to think about collateral and security. And these are what I've tried to do, is provide general principles that participants both in UK and all other jurisdictions will find extremely useful. So hopefully, if you're interested in that, I'd like you to join me, and it'll be great to have a chat about what's going on in that. It's a very dynamic sector of the market.